Well, I lived here in New York City. I had my son, my oldest, in the fall of 1960. And when he was 10 months old, we got on a Greyhound bus and moved to Mexico City. It was hard to be a single mother here in New York in the 60s or 50s. There were no social services, and so and I hardly got any time with him because I worked to support us and so forth. So we went to Mexico City, and it wasn't long after I got there that I began frequenting Philip Lamantia's apartment. Philip Lamantia, as you know, was a beat poet who had moved to Mexico City and was living there at the time with his then wife, Lucille. He had an apartment in the center of the city, and it became a kind of salon where we, poets from North America, South America, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Nicaragua, I remember. Ernesto Cardenal was one of the poets who would come around, and a number of Mexican poets, of course. So we'd gather there, we'd read to each other in the evening. We were all very young, we were all in our mid-20s, maybe some of us a little older, some of us a little younger. And it became apparent to us that the Latin American poets really had never read Williams or Pound or any of our mentors, or any of us, of course. Well, we were hardly published at the time. And the same was true in reverse. We hadn't read Vallejo or Neruda or any of the great Latin American poets. And language was a problem. I spoke Spanish, más o menos, and some of the poets spoke English, but rudimentary. So our first understanding was we really need a venue where we can publish good translation and read each other and read our mentors. And so that developed at Felipe's apartment at the end of 1961. I think I got to Mexico City maybe in August of that year. Sergio Mondragon was a young Mexican poet who also came to those salons, and he and I began a relationship. We got married, we had 2 more children. So we actually started the magazine. I think what motivated us was we thought we could do anything. We walked the streets of Mexico City, we asked people for work, we asked people for money. We went to visit the minister of what would be our Secretary of State, Jose Gorostiza, who was a great Mexican poet, and asked him for a poem. He said no, he didn't have anything to give us, but he gave us 1,000 pesos, which in those years would be, I don't know, maybe like saying $100 today. That was huge for us. That was sort of how we produced our first issue. And our first issue came out in January of 1962. And we never missed a 3-month period until the end of the magazine, 31 issues later. So that's how it all started.